So what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about the health of the nation. And the health and state of the union in terms of its health is a little bit frightening. It's a little bit intimidating. Sometimes people can take the impression of just, what am I going to do with all this bad information? But I think information can empower you. Information can cause you to move from where you are to something better. And so anything and everything that I say today that might sound negative in terms of how many people die from this condition, how many people die from that condition, how many husbands die before their wives, take that information and say, great, from today forward, I'm going to make a difference for myself and for my family. I'm going to do something different than what I've been doing, because what I've been doing is I could be a statistic if I'm not careful. So let's go on to the first couple of slides. But how many people are dying each year? 200,000 die from unnecessary surgeries. 100,000 die from complications of prescription drugs. I mean, you can't go on the television today without hearing all the different drugs. And then what you hear about all these drugs are all these nasty things they can do. I mean, a person has to be stupid to take some of that stuff. I mean, you sit home and you listen to some of this stuff. I mean, you take this medication, it can cause spontaneous and unexpected diarrhea. Raise your hand if you think that's a good idea. I mean, I haven't heard that's a good idea anywhere. So the other thing, 500,000 people die from heart disease. Another 300,000 die from complications of obesity, and 200,000 from diabetes. Most diabetes is type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is really a dietary issue. It is a dietary issue that's grown purposely out of an industry, our food processing industry, to make it so that you can't stop eating foods that are devoid of the nutrients that would turn off the mechanism in your brain when you got full. So diabetes, heart disease, all these other diseases are all diseases of nutritional problems. They're all nutritional deficiency conditions. So medicine is targeting the emergency of illness, not the process. The emergency. You go in, they give you a Band-Aid. You go in, they say your cholesterol is high, you need a statin. Your cholesterol is high, you need a statin. You know what they do with statins when they give you statins? They check your liver every month. You know why? Because it's killing your liver. It's absolutely killing your liver. It will lower your cholesterol at the cost of your liver. People don't die from high cholesterol. They can't prove that people die from high cholesterol. The height of cholesterol, the upper limit for cholesterol used to be 300. And I even still know areas in San Diego County where the hospital's normal number is still 300. So then they dropped it down, then they dropped it down, they did the same thing with blood sugar measures. So what they're doing is the pharmaceutical industry is driving this whole thing. There's cures for diabetes that are simple. There are cures for heart disease that are simple. There are cures for cholesterol that are simple. Yet what's happening is they don't sell any drugs that way. And your tax dollar and your tax dollar and my tax dollar have gone to support these folks, and what do they give you? A $4 pill. That if you went to Mexico, you'd buy the same pill for 15 cents. What's wrong with that picture? I mean, the picture's totally wrong. We don't really have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system. It's not really helping people become healthy. It's just taking care of the emergency of illness when you didn't do it right, you didn't do it right, you didn't do it right, and finally you're ill. And then what they have to do to you is they have to pump you full of drugs. Instead of at some point back here, making a change with it. Making a change with when you go in for the visit, instead of being excited to give you a pill and get you out the door. I mean, how many people had to go into the doctor and wait half the day to get a 5-minute visit that wasn't worth a thing because they didn't even listen to what you were saying? And then what did they give you? A pocket full of pills that when you went home and took them, they gave you instantaneous spontaneous, unexpected, whatever, okay? So I think each and every one of you are getting my point. So anyway, 1.2 million people die of cancer. 1 in 3 die from cancer, 1 in 4 die of heart attacks. All of these diseases are really avoidable. They're avoidable by managing our stress, and managing our stress is about the fight and flight mechanism. It's about us having too much gas pedal and too little brake. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. That's the way we live. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. We're gonna be late. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. That way of living one's life turns off the immune system. It's an unguarded immune system that causes cancer. It's an unguarded immune system that causes us to get serious disease because we have no guards at the gate. The U.S. spends 30% more than other countries, than any other country in the world, and they are at the bottom 1/3 in terms of longevity, infant mortality, and birth defects. I mean, that's a crime. Why are we spending so much and getting so little? And it's because what we're trying to do is we're trying to fight an underlying problem of starvation. Because what's happened in our food industry has caused us to all be starving to death, whether or not we know it. That's why we can't eat just one. That's why we can't push ourselves away from the table after one plate. That's why our hunger persists, is because the foods that are put out there for us are devoid of the things that we need. Over 6,000 diseases are directly related to nutritional deficiencies. And again, when you hear what I have to say about how they grow our food, what they do to our food, what the large commercial processors of food do to it, you'll find out in a hurry that this is a plan. It's not an accident. These folks are trying to make profit off of every last one of us by selling us food that will not turn our brains off when we've had enough of it. Over 100 million people suffer from chronic and degenerative disease. And the reason being is they're not getting the nutrients they need. They're not getting the foods with the nutrients in them because the farming industry has so drastically changed since your grandparents and great-grandparents were eating the foods that were grown on the earth. 11 out of 12 husbands will die before their wives. My advice on all 3 classes today is, ladies, buy the insurance now on them. So, who am I to have all this information? Well, I had a radio show in about 60 cities called The Health Detective, and what we did was we interviewed all the people who wrote books on the food scams that are taking place, on the farming scams that were taking place, on the scams of things like aspartame and everything else. And we interviewed these individuals and we recorded them. So my background is in research, laboratory experiences, psychology, neuroscience. I was at the Aerospace Medicine Research Lab for 8 years. I am an experimental psychologist. I have a degree in chiropractic, acupuncture, clinical nutrition, clinical thermography. I'm the past president of the American and International Association of Clinical Nutrition. I'm on the advisory board for the Price Pottinger Nutrition Foundation and the Foundation for Nutrition and Health. And I'm also a medical advisory board member for the Lyme and Autism Foundation. And I've also started a foundation called FACE, the Foundation for Autism Awareness, Education, Communication, which is teaching parents of autistic children how to feed and care for their autistic children because the children are totally, completely allergic to most everything they come in contact with, which causes a large degree of body toxicity, headaches, and other things, and they can't communicate and they can't tell people what they're experiencing. And so the foundation supports an educational program for these folks, teaching a class on, guess what, Food Defense 101, Home Defense 101, and Emotional Defense 101, teaching them tools and techniques for being able to care for their children, how to avoid feeding them foods that are going to create reactions, how to avoid home products, whether it be paints or new furniture or whatever, that are going to cause allergic reactions in these children and cause them to hurt themselves and or also possibly hurt others. I was a talk show host on this radio show that I mentioned, and this is largely what we were looking at, was really trying to look underneath and beyond the kinds of things that were being told to us on the TV shows, on the advertisements. I mean, they have to spend $1 bazillion to sell you these things, and so much of it is junk. I mean, one of the things that is at the top of the list, and you'll hear it in some of the CDs that we have out there, and it is that puffed cereal of any kind has a negative nitrogen balance in it. And in studies they've run, they've fed them puffed cereal, a group of mice, and they fed another group of mice a starvation diet. And the group of mice eating the puffed cereal died before the ones eating the starvation diet. In other words, this stuff could be killing you. We come into life, if you imagine a chart here that goes from birth through death. And that what happens is that we think of when we're born, we start down this thing, that's the peak of our health at that point, and we go down here to the point at which we die. What many of us don't realize is that we could take that point over there and go all the way over here and then die in our sleep. Our other people treat themselves very poorly, and their curve doesn't go over here, but goes right down here. So if this is time along the bottom, these people cut themselves short. 20, 30, 40 years of life, they're cut short. But if they are able to find the nutrition they need, the support they need, they're able to come over here and then die in their sleep. How many of us want to die when we die in our sleep? I think we all do. Don't get hit by a truck, don't die with cancer surgeries and this surgery and on 27 medications. I recently applied for some additional insurance. And they said, so what kind of medication do you take? I said, none. They said, excuse me, what kind of medication? How many medications do you take? I'm 65 years old. They said, how many medications do you take? I said, I don't take any medications. Oh, the insurance company is going to be very suspicious of this. I mean, of course they're going to be suspicious because everybody else in the world at 65 is taking 27 drugs. I mean, there's no reason for it. None whatsoever. You follow what you eat. Okay, I've been in practice for 33 years. Most recently, the last 16 years or so, I've been at Scripps in San Diego. And they're not sure what I do there, which is fine with me. Generally, many of them have sent me the various cases that they can't figure out. And they said, well, we're not sure what he does, but he certainly does seem to get a lot more of them well that we send. And they're sending me their throwaways. They're sending me the cases they can't figure out. But the radio show was called The Health Detective. And across the board, that's kind of the theme of my practice. It's kind of the theme of all that I do with this, is looking for those answers that other people were unaware of, they didn't know about.